They called it the most sacred union of Olympus, the marriage of the king and queen of the gods. But even the heavens trembled, for what is sacred is not always gentle, and what is eternal is not always kind. Mount Olympus blazed with golden light. Every god and goddess, every nymph and spirit gathered to witness the sacred vows. Zeus, tall, robed in white and gold, thunderbolt gleaming at his side. Hera, radiant in her gown, crowned with a diadem, beauty unmatched, pride unshaken. Hymns filled the air, lyres played, ambrosia flowed. When their hands joined, the skies themselves bowed. It was meant to be eternal, it was meant to be perfect. But eternity holds more than vows, and perfection is a fragile thing. Hera was crowned queen. Seated beside Zeus upon twin thrones of gold, she held the scepter of authority, lotus-tipped, symbol of power and fertility. The court bent before her, and she felt Olympus breathe her name. For a moment, she believed in the sanctity of it all, her beauty, her strength, her wisdom, finally matched with the king of gods. Yet already, shadows lurked in Zeus's eyes. Already his thunder wandered elsewhere. It began quietly. A glance too long, a step too far, whispers in the marble halls. Zeus, eyes wandering toward mortal women, toward nymphs who laughed in the forests, toward beauty that was not his queen. Hera's heart, once proud, cracked. She saw the distance in his gaze, and though no words were spoken, betrayal does not need a voice to be heard. Jealousy became her crown. She wore it even as she wore her diadem. Her eyes sharpened, her lips grew cold. Storm clouds gathered behind her gaze. For love betrayed becomes suspicion, and suspicion poisons even sacred vows. The gods whispered of her temper, but they did not whisper of her grief. Zeus cloaked his desires in shadows, in moonlit forests, in mortal chambers, in places where Olympus could not see. Mortal women whispered his name. Nymphs vanished into silence. Every affair hidden, yet known. For Hera's eyes were everywhere, her shadow stretched long and watchful, and each secret kiss struck her like thunder. The king's love was scattered like lightning across the earth, but never steady in her arms. Wounded love becomes wrath. Hera stood tall, torch in one hand, whip in the other, her fury blazing brighter than any storm Zeus could cast. She could not strike him, the king of gods, but she could strike those he touched. Curses fell upon his lovers, and his children born of betrayal tasted her vengeance. The world called her cruel. But what is cruelty, if not the armor of a broken heart? Zeus roared, Olympus shook. Thunder split the sky as lightning fell like swords. But Hera did not bow. Her robes whipped in the wind, her face fierce as flame. God against goddess, husband against wife. The heavens themselves burned as they clashed. Theirs was no gentle union, but a war dressed in sacred vows. Once the queen dared more. She conspired with the other gods, bound Zeus in golden chains, his thunderbolt slipping from his hand. For a brief moment, Olympus belonged not to the king, but to the queen. Yet even gods cannot bind storms forever. The chains would not hold, and rebellion carries a price. Zeus's allies freed him, chains shattered, lightning blazed. Hera was dragged before him, defiance burning still in her eyes. The storm broke over Olympus, light clashing against shadow, husband against wife. And though she braced for fury, Hera's heart knew this was not the end. For gods cannot sever what eternity binds. Olympus returned to silence, but silence is not peace. The thrones stood side by side once more. Zeus, stern, thunderbolt at rest. Hera, regal, scepter in hand. They sat close, yet cold, together, yet apart. The golden hall glimmered, but the air was heavy with distance. Theirs was a marriage written in fire, sacred for it bound heaven itself, troubled for it knew no peace. Zeus's face unyielding, Hera's face sorrowful. They looked outward, never at each other, and Olympus trembled at the weight of their silence. For if the king and queen could not love in harmony, what hope had the rest of the world? Yet through it all they endured, hands barely touching, crowns gleaming faintly under the stars. No mortal vow could bind them, but the fabric of Olympus itself depended on their union, sacred yet troubled, broken yet eternal. For the King of Gods and the Queen of Heaven would reign together until the end of time, and so their story remains, not of love fulfilled, but of love scarred, not of harmony, but of endurance, eternal. They called it a sacred marriage. But even the divine know that sometimes eternity is the heaviest chain of all. If you believe myths hide truths and that even gods bleed with love and sorrow, subscribe to Aphrodite's diary, where forgotten hearts speak again.